in Canada because
a boot. Not a boot. Sorry.
Hey, welcome back to Trailer Trash ATV with Jeff in the garage today. Still working on the Goldwing project. We're going to be doing the rear brake light. You guys have probably saw this. I don't know if I've got this in one of the videos, but I temporarily wired this up, and I did that off camera just to test this out and do the design work on the rear tail light. That was this right here. Okay, so this is printed in PLA. PLA is the mock-up prototype plastic of choice because it's very easy to print. You don't even need a heated bed to print 3D PLA. So I tried a bunch of different designs. There's a few differences in these two pieces. Why is it in half? Because I can't print. This is too long for my print bed, so I have to break it up into two parts, and then it'll glue together. So the final version over here is clamped for gluing. So this is printed in black PETG or PETG, and that's it's a plastic they make water bottles out of. It's very impact resistant. It's harder to print than PLA, but it has a lot of the benefits of an ABS. When you print ABS, it gives off a lot of noxious fumes and stuff. So plus you need a heated enclosure for ABS. With PETG, it's easier to print than ABS, not as easy to print as PLA. It's almost as impact resistant as ABS. The temperature coefficient is higher like ABS. The other benefit of it is its UV resistance out of the box, where ABS is not. It needs to be coated with some sort of UV protectant. So I like PETG. It's my go-to filament for all the stuff. I probably mentioned this on videos on the channel before, but the mirror project, which you guys I filmed, maybe that'll get posted up at some point there this winter as a filler or whatever, if anybody's interested in that stuff. That's all printed with PETG. So we're doing the taillight now. Yeah, I don't know if I'm completely happy with how this is turning out. It looks kind of cool. We'll see how it looks on the bike. There are already a couple of small changes I want to make to this design, but it's going to serve two purposes, and I'll take you over and show you why. So I had printed these little things, these little spacers, because if you recall, this is too narrow. Like, it's too narrow for the frame. So when the bolt goes through, I wanted a spacer here to kind of take up so you don't see the threads on the bolt. So, but what this is going to allow me to do, if you notice, we got here and here. So the mounting for the tail light, the strip light, is actually going to use those spacers to mount the tail light. Sorry, I don't think the angle very well there. So it's going to mount in there, and we'll show that to you when the glue dries. We'll install it, and I'll show you guys the installation. So what we're doing right now, and wiring's kind of boring. I know a lot of people, they say that it's boring. I know a lot of other YouTube channels will skip wiring. So I don't know if I'm going to show it all either, but what I wanted to tell you, or what show you guys. Now, there's a lot of ways you can wire up stuff. And when I say ways, I mean connectors. So there's blade connectors, there's bullet connectors, which is what a lot of Japanese bikes use, these little bullets connectors. And I usually stick to bullets for a lot of things, just because that's the way a lot of the older bikes that I work on use. Now there's the new types, back, probably in the 2000s or something, a lot of the manufacturers switched over to some sort of insulated or rubber gasketed connectors, and you can get those, but I find they're just a little harder to get a hold of. Not harder like Amazon's got them, but to find ones that made up, I guess. So if you're trying to get something to connect to an existing wiring harness. So as I've mentioned on the channel before, I don't like to hack into harnesses at all. So if I can anyway avoid hacking a main harness on a motorcycle, I do it. Sub harnesses, I don't mind hacking up too much, because you can get those available, and you just plug in into where the sub harness connects to the main harness. Is usually pretty straightforward. And so, but when you start monkeying with the main harness and you undo the factory, wire wrap, and you've got wires sticking out somewhere, yeah, it's not. If you hand the bike on to the next owner, and you always say, well, you know, I'll keep this bike. Nobody keeps the bikes forever. So you'll hand it on to the next owner, and then it's the next owner's nightmare to figure out what the hell you did. So in the case of the, and I'll take you over and show you that too. So that's the other project we're working alongside this, is the fuel temp gauge project. So if you recall, last time I showed you that, it was printed in PLA, the gray PLA, and now it's printed in black PETG. So it's a little bit loose in here because that gives me a little room for a little bit of, I'm going to put some foam cushioning in, and then that'll pinch down on that and keep that nice and sturdy. Now, normally that sits up here, of course, so I believe it's wired in on a sub-harness. This sub-harness over here that services all of the dash parts. So I've got two choices, okay? The tank's got to come off, and we either need to figure out run wires back from the main harness, back in underneath and come up to this, or I need to find where these wires are running through the main harness and hack the main harness to come up to it. Now, the easiest, not maybe the neatest installation, but the easiest installation will be to wire a new sub harness. So we'll come from the factory connector up here at the headstock, and I don't know which one of this is, but it's up here somewhere. We've got to sort all that out. That's going to be a fun project. So we'll probably tie that in and then run the wires back through the main harness, or along with the main harness back to that point. And that way I'm not hacking the main harness. Is it the cleanest way to do it? No, because you're adding more wires and, you know, wires going everywhere. But I really don't want to hack the main harness, as I've said a bunch of times. But back to the taillight for a second, and in the spirit of not hacking, you can pick up these from eBay or Amazon. And in addition to bullet connectors, these old bikes a lot of times use these multi connectors. As you can see on the sub harness for the rear taillight, the factory taillight, they use one of these. So I am going to use one too to wire up our strip light so that we can plug in to the main harness with a factory connector plug. So these aren't waterproof. I like to go around and smear a little bit of dielectric grease in there just to kind of keep them, you know, water out of them. But as cool and as fancy as these new, you know, watertight connectors are, and if you're doing a new bike, that's a natural progression to go to. But these old connectors have survived on these bikes for 40 years or however many years it's been, you know, several, you know, more than a decade anyway. So they're not terrible. They're just, you know, the new waterproof stuff is a little bit better. So if you're doing a custom wiring harness even for an old bike, if you're doing a new custom wiring harness, yeah, use those new type of connectors, and run new wires, use the new watertight connectors. They're cool, they're neat, and they should last. But if you're wiring up an old bike and you want to use the existing main loom, this is a great way to go. So again, I'm not going to film all of it. I just want to really show you guys, because actually doing it is not going to be anything fun. But basically, it comes with these little connectors, and you crimp these on, and then these slide in and snap in there. Then what we'll have to do is, before we put these in, we got to figure out which wire here goes to which wire here, so that we can wire this block up in the same way that everything matches up. Now, another thing to mention, the reason I want to mention this stuff is, you see how small those wires are? Getting them to crimp onto these ends that are meant for a much thicker wire. I don't know what gauge that is, 18 maybe, wire. This stuff is really, really small. Now, it's small because A, this is cheap Chinese stuff. B, it's LED, so it doesn't need a lot of current, but it is going to make it hard to crimp these on and have them stay. So I may have to back them up with a little bit of solder or something. But so I'll set you up in time lapse. All right, so here we are. We got the brake light, we got it wired up, and the time lapse won't show it, but I did make a little boo-boo and I had to swap them out. And that's where this little tool comes in handy. That's where this tool comes in handy. These are, I don't know what you call them. I don't know if there's a special name for them, but there's a whole bunch of different styles, and basically they're all designed to take out different types of connectors, remove these from here. So if you've ever wondered how to get those out of there, one of these fits in here. You press it, it pushes the clip, and then you can just pull the whole thing out. So, which I had to do. But if you ever need to rewire, that's it. So we're going to plug this in here, and we're going to test this. Boom, she plugs right in. Should go that way, I believe. Stay. Let's put our key in real quick. So we have a running light. We don't have any turn signals. Oh, you know why? Because they're not done up there. And we don't have a brake light. Because I got everything unswitched at the head. Stupid. All right, I'll bring you back. All right, now that we've got for all the wires up front at the headstock temporarily reconnected, let's go on. Bang. Signal light, and brake light. All right, so that's that. So now the other thing is I'm going to have to, the reason I showed you those keys is because we're going to have to take these out of here again, because this has got to be fished through a hole in the mount. So I'm going to have to take all those out and poke them through the hole and then reconnect that connector, because the connector is too big to go through the little hole in the light bar mount. So that'll have to be done when that glue's dry, and I'll bring you back when that glue's dry. Ta-da! So we finally have this done. So yeah, I think it turned out really, really good. I ended up using some of those spacers in here just to widen that up a little bit. So the next version, I got a little overgap here and a little overgap here. Yeah, so I don't know why. One of the measurements is off. I can't figure out which one. So I do have a little bit of gap here and a little bit of gap here, but I was stretching this out a little bit. So anyway, version 2 probably will take that stuff up, and I'll if you can see that anyway, put some dome bolts in there to kind of clean that up a little bit. So yeah, I'll set you up in this tripod and show you how it looks. I think you guys can see that. Yeah, so that should be it for tonight. Just quickly, I don't have the ring for this, and I don't know if I'm going to use this headlight bucket. It's kind of rotted out a little bit, but I wanted to put it together just to kind of get an idea for the dash. So I want to get the dash all done while I'm trying to decide on the headlight. So this is going to go, I don't need the ring, I guess, because this is just going to go as a placeholder in the front here so that I can get this dash. I'm waiting for the idiot lights to get here. I ordered some stainless LED, blue and green and what, like all those lights, a kit. And the local, it's not Pure Later, but the local delivery people messed up, and anyway, they took it to the wrong house, and I had to get a refund with Amazon and reorder it, and wow, what a big schmozzle. So anyway, so this is going to be the next tackle. So now that we got the rear end done, this is the next tackle. So we're going to get the dash done. We'll get this wiring cleaned up. We'll get a temp gauge wired up and see if that's all going to be fine. We still got to fit the little 7-volt regulator in there, but I've 3D printed a spot on the bottom of the casing here. And I don't know if you're going to see it anyway, but See, kind of sits up in there. And it's dark, and I'm not going to go get a light. Maybe you guys can see that. Anyway, it's going to just go on the bottom of that, and then we'll have that wired up. Yeah, and I think that's probably it. For the old bamboo is the seat. I got the sit and fly on here just for now. I know that's like a like or hate thing, but it might end up going on because I really like it's comfortable. It's really comfortable to sit on. I know it doesn't look the best, but we'll get this seat upholstered once I get the foam exactly where I want. And on that topic, I don't want to thin it out too much here because then we're going to have, this is already getting to the point where it's messing up the line here with the edge of the cover. So I don't want to thin it out here anymore, but I may end up thinning it out more here to here, and then from here down to here. Try to get this slope more. I don't think this bike's ever going to see a passenger, so I'm not too worried about doing that. But I know it's hard to see the lines right now because of the sit and fly that's on here, but I think you can kind of get an idea. And, you know, it's not the slimmest, sleekest seat ever that I've seen on a Goldwing or on any custom cafe or whatever. But I'm not going to compromise the fit and the comfort for a bike pick for pipe burn or bike XF or something like that. So that's not what this build is about. I'm trying to cut that a balance between form and function. But if one has to be sacrificed, it's going to be form, because I want it to function. That's why the mud guards aren't going away 100%. We got some gaiters coming, some fork boots here, which I like the aesthetic of. Plus, they're practical. All right. Anyway, for this update, Jeff Trail Trash ADV. If you like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. You know we're in Canada because
a boot. Not a boot. Sorry.